I am joined by Lauren Greutman.
Hello.
And she was just in the city this morning.
Yes, I was.
And she came and is joining us live here, and she is the owner of the website LaurenGreutman.com. Used to be I Am That Lady.
Right.
And now the author of an awesome book called The
Yes.
Recovering Spender.
Yay.
So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's so great.
We
for you
finally
to be
meet
here.
in real life.
We've known each other for years and years, right? And then we've never met in real life. And what do they say? What does everybody say? IRL? Is that
Yes,
the in
IRL,
real life?
yeah.
You know? So now we're meeting in real life. And she's just as great as she is online, not in yours. So we're so happy that you have a crazy busy schedule.
Right.
And you took time out to come here and join our viewers and tell them about your book.
Yeah.
So welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you.
And congratulations. The book is doing awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a blast.
Yeah, good for you. Well, I was lucky enough to get an advanced copy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I devoured it right away.
It was an easy read, right?
Totally
Okay,
easy read.
good.
Totally easy read. And one thing she says in the book is this book is the financial book for the person who doesn't enjoy talking about money. So I love that because most people that are in debt don't like to talk about money.
Right.
So tell us a little bit of your background and what made you write this book.
Yeah, so I am a spender, and what I mean by that is I like to spend money. And that desire to spend money got me in $40,000 worth of debt about 9 years ago. We almost lost our home to foreclosure. We had a car towed away. We were running a $1,000 deficit every month, and I would wake up every single day with just this pit in my stomach of how would we ever get out of this mess.
Right.
And so I actually, one of the first things that I did was learn how to coupon.
Yeah.
And cut my grocery bill from $1,000 down to $200. But we're going to talk a little bit about that later on.
Yeah, we are.
But so that's kind of my background, and it took me 2 years to get out of debt from when we decided that we were going to do it, and I had hid most of it from my husband because I was doing the bills.
Right.
And so I had to come clean to him, which was really, really hard to come clean to him. And then it took us 2 years to get out of debt. And so I've been teaching people this online for the past 6.5 years.
Right.
When I wrote this book, I thought to myself, oh, you're going to hold it up?
Yes.
When I wrote my book, I thought to myself, finance books to me are so boring.
Yes.
And as a spender and somebody who doesn't like to budget and always felt out of control with my money, there was never a book that I could pick up and have it be an easy read.
Right.
And feel like I was actually learning something.
Or that you connected with.
That I connected with.
Yeah.
And I feel like so often finance books are written for the people who love finances.
Yes, it's true. I never thought about that.
And what about the people like me who didn't enjoy finances, that felt like they couldn't stick to a budget? And so it was really important for me when I was writing this to be that voice for, they say the 70% of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, who's writing a book for them?
Yeah.
Like, they're boring. And so I just thought, what, I'm going to take my story and I'm going to share it and then there's a 12-step program at the end, a step-by-step process of how I got out of debt myself.
Well, it definitely touched home with me.
We're kindred spirits,
yes.
right?
But we're going to keep going on and talk about all the different aspects of the book. But before we do, I want to tell you guys, we're going to be taking questions from you guys. I want you guys to ask Lauren any question you want about budgeting, debt reduction. And as you go on and hear more about the book during our live broadcast right now, questions may come up. So please put them in the comments, and at the very end, we're going to answer them for you, or Lauren's going to answer them for you. And we are going to have a special giveaway at the very end. So make sure you stay tuned, and we'll tell you more about that later. The first thing I want to talk about is budgeting.
Okay.
And in your book, you say budgeting is actually a spender's best kept secret and best friend. And I totally agree with that. I mean, totally agree with that. And I loved your analogy that you compared it to your kids being in a fence. So, can you elaborate on that more and why you think that and how people can understand it a little bit better?
Right. So if somebody's a spender, they're probably thinking, how is it your best friend, right? Because to them, they're like, it's the worst nightmare, right? And so
I thought that too.
Yeah, and I did as well for years. Like
Yeah.
I would, make a budget. The next month I would blow it,
Right.
and then it would take me like another year to make another one, and then
I'd
I'd
be
blow
like,
it again.
I hate this.
Yes.
This doesn't let me
And
spend
my
what
husband
I want.
would make all these spreadsheets and be like, Lauren, here you go. And I'm like, don't give me another spreadsheet. Like, I don't want a spreadsheet. I don't get spreadsheets. But so when I thought about budgeting this way, it came to me one day when I was thinking about my kids. I was watching this. So I have 4 children.
Uh-huh.
The oldest is 11, the youngest is 3. And we have a fenced-in backyard, and I saw them playing out there, and they were playing on the swing set, and they were having so much fun. And I thought, to myself, like, we have a fence, so it keeps them safe from the things outside of the fence, but yet they can still have fun within the boundaries of the fence.
Right.
And I thought budgeting is like the same concept
It's
around
true.
your money.
Yeah.
So all a budget does is say, like, this is how you can spend your money. It's your fence around your backyard.
Right.
And you can still have fun with your money, and you can still play with it like my kids can play on the swing set.
Right.
But it just is there for your protection, so that the rabid dog doesn't come through and bite one of your children. Same thing as, like, I was telling you, I've never been into an IKEA because I know how
we
dangerous.
were like, you've never been into an IKEA,
Because it's like a boundary of mine, but I
go.
know that that's outside of my fence, and so I always think about it as like a fence around my money. That it's there, the budget is there to protect me
Right.
and give me freedom, so that I can have fun with my money and know where it's supposed to be.
So it's not like you can't do things.
Exactly.
You just have to do them within whatever boundaries you've set.
Exactly.
So that's why I love that analogy.
Yep.
I thought it was a great
Thank
analogy.
you. Thank you.
Now, right from the beginning, the words of the book just hit home with me.
Mhm.
I was reading it and I was like, I'm a spender.
Mhm.
I never thought of myself as a spender. And, there's a quote I love that you said, my spending habits landed my husband and me under a mountain of debt. I would wake up most mornings and feel like there was 400-pound weight on my chest. My spirit was crushed. The anxiety and stress were paralyzing, and I had no idea how to get out of the mess I had gotten us into. That quote totally rings true, and I know that so many Living Rich with Coupons viewers feel the exact same way, that they've gotten themselves into debt and they don't know how to get out.
Yep.
So obviously being in debt, now I say obviously being in debt is a sign of overspending,
Mhm.
but I was in denial for so many years,
Right.
So in your book you talk about how do you know you're in a money crisis?
Yeah.
Like, what are the red flags?
Well, some of the things that I talk about knowing you're in a money crisis might not be things that you would normally think about.
Mhm.
So in a money crisis, things like, are you late on your mortgage, but yet you have like the nicest car and the nicest clothes, and you're going out to dinner all the time?
Right.
Are you in a money crisis if you're spending your money if you're not spending your money as a reflection of your value system?
Mhm.
So if you love your kids, but yet you're spending money on yourself and getting your family into debt so that it's going to rob your kids in the future.
Right. So those are just major
Yeah,
red
those
flags.
are major red flags.
And you break them all down
Mhm.
in the book.
Yep, I break it all down.
Go through, I think for spenders, you're just in so much denial that you
Mhm.
don't see those
Yep.
red flags.
And
They're
how
not
many-
obvious.
they're not.
They
And-
seem like they would be.
Well, because
but,
everybody else is spending.
Right.
And so you just think everybody else is doing it,
yeah,
So
I can do it too.
I can do
because
it.
I work hard.
Exactly. I
Right.
work hard. I deserve nice things. But it's funny how many people have emailed me in this past week telling me the same exact thing, that I didn't think I was a spender until I read your book.
Yes.
Because it's not like
I just thought I was bad with money.
yeah, you think you're bad with money, but also people think that they just go out and, like, spenders go to like Bloomingdale's and spend like $1,000.
Right.
But it's just like, it can be $5 here, $10 here, $100 here, and doing that for years adds up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what
yeah,
happened?
That's what happened with
Mhm.
us, $30,000 in debt. And we were
Yeah.
like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it wasn't those big purchases, right?
Right,
It was
no,
just
it
these
was-
little,
Who knew? It like hit you like a ton of bricks,
yeah,
and
you're
you were like,
oh my
what the
goodness,
heck?
what
Yes.
did I do to myself?
So we were talking about budgets, but do you think, there's some people that are watching this right
Mhm.
now, and they're like, well, I'm not a spender, I'm not bad with my money, I'm frugal. What do you think about a budget for those kind of people that are good with their money?
I think that they need to budget too,
Yeah.
because I talk about in the book the difference between a spender and a saver.
Mhm.
So I'm married. My husband is like complete money opposite of me.
Mhm.
He's like a spreadsheet nerd, like loves to save, loves calculations, and I'm like the complete opposite.
Right.
And for him, it gives him a sense of peace knowing where his money is going.
Right.
And I think anybody can benefit from having a budget, because it's where you're, I do perspective budgeting, which is we decide for the whole month ahead of us what that month is going to look like, and then take out cash for some things and then use debit card for other things. But there's lots of ways that people can benefit, even if they love and they're good with their money.
Right. So budgeting is key.
It is.
Yes,
it really is.
And it keeps you in that fence,
It
as
does.
you say.
I always say
love
stay
that.
within the fence.
Yes,
That's what
I love
that's my
that.
thing.
That's
Stay
a
within
good
the fence.
quote. Everybody should put that up on their refrigerator, right?
Yep.
Stay within
Stay
your
within the fence.
right? Now, one thing that I talk about all the time is building an emergency fund,
Yep.
and I'm a big proponent of that, and I know you are too. And the reason it's important is because there's always going to be something that happens. And if you're trying to save, you don't have an emergency fund, I feel like that will easily set you back.
Right.
But the problem is that it's a hard concept to grasp when you are in so much debt and you have no money. Where do you get this money to build the emergency fund? And that's something that I get asked quite a bit.
Yep.
So I know you talk about how to fit that in your book.
Right.
So I wonder if you could elaborate on that, answers to that question for a lot of people that have that question.
When I go on the Today Show and talk about decluttering,
Which you were just on
which
this
I was
morning.
just on this morning, yes. But when I go, that's like what they want me to do all the time, because people don't realize how much money is hiding in their homes. And
especially if they were a spender.
Especially if they were a spender. And I did a documentary with a family, taking the principles of the book. And if people want to watch that, they can go to therecoveringspender.com.
Okay.
And the documentary is up on there. And Bridget was on the show with me this morning, and I found about $2,500 worth of stuff in her house to sell.
Wow.
So within 1 month of going into her house and showing her, this is what you have in your home to sell, she had $1,500 in an emergency account.
And that's great. What a great start.
Yeah,
and she was in debt.
And she's in $27,000 worth of debt, and they were behind on their mortgage. And I had to try and convince them, no, this is the next step. We're not going to start paying off debt. The first step is like stick to the budget. That's step number one. Don't try and like cut all these like crazy things out, because then you feel like you're on a diet,
right?
Like, and you're just hungry all the time,
right? And that'll last for what, a week?
It will yes, that's true. So, and then we started going through her house, and she found like $1,500 immediately. And I talk about exactly what to find in the book and where to sell it. Even like broken appliances and toilet paper rolls.
It's crazy
like, all
when
this
you
crazy
think of the stuff that people will buy. But if you have, look around. Even if you're not a spender, you probably have a lot of stuff in your house that you can get rid of.
And you know what? One of the things that I love doing still as a hobby of mine is going to thrift stores and buying name brand clothing and flipping it on eBay. And so I talk about that in the book. And I actually, the dress that I wore on the Today Show, got
today?
$2 at the thrift store.
Whoa.
Yes. And somebody mentioned it actually matched the cover of my book, which I didn't realize. I'm like, oh, yeah, I planned that. I totally didn't believe it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been to my thrift store here, right, Megan? We've been to our thrift store.
Oh,
It's terrible.
You have to know the right brands.
No, but we got to go to a different one.
There's so many brands. I mean, like little things like Anthropology. There's certain like RN codes on the tags that you have to look for. And so I talk about that in the book. And also I have an online course that I kind of go through those details as well. But there's like a gold mine at the thrift store, and I just love it.
Crazy. Look at that. See? Well, all these things. See, that's why you got to buy this book. Going back to budgets, some of our readers, when we talk about couponing, they're like, how do you get started? How do you get started? I mean, if people are probably sitting there, well, okay, I get it. I need an emergency fund, but how do I get started preparing a budget? What is the first step that you would tell people to do?
To start to prepare a budget?
Yes.
The first step that I always tell people to do is to actually take the last 3 months of their bank statements and make an average.
Right.
And then you're going to set a budget using those amounts. You're not going to like go crazy and start cutting things back yet. The first step is to stick to the budget, not start cutting things back. Once we've stuck to the budget for a month, now it's time to start looking at your your bills and which ones we can get rid of, which ones to cut back, which ones to negotiate.
Right.
And then from there, then we go on to step 3, which is now we start thinking of extra ways to bring in income and start strategizing what debts to pay off first and in what order. And so those are like the things that I really work on. I always talk about the food budget as well as one of the easiest place
Right.
to cut back.
Right. We're going to talk
We're gonna
about
talk about that.
Yeah, because our readers, Living Rich with Coupon readers, we are all about, right, guys? We are all about saving money on our groceries, and for me, that was a major factor in getting my debt down because I was able to free up $11,000 a year on my groceries, and that's really
huge money.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was money at the time I didn't have, and I know you talked about it. Couponing, how it helped you in your book, and I know you still coupon a little bit, and you still coupon.
I still coupon, I do.
And so how did couponing, because you weren't a couponer before,
Right.
So how did couponing help you with the struggles you were going through?
It was a life changer for me. I went from spending $1,000 a month at the grocery store plus an additional $800 a month at restaurants, down to
people don't think, they don't factor that in, I think, and that it's key to really look at the big picture of what you're spending on food.
So that was a family of 3. Like at that time, it was me, my husband, and my 1-year-old son.
Okay.
So he wasn't eating very much.
Right.
And so we were spending almost like $1,800 a month on food. I cut that down when we figured that out. We're like, oh my goodness. We cut it down
slap in the face,
$200 a month.
That's great.
So we freed up essentially $1,600 a year. So like right around you, like $12,000 a year.
Right.
And so I started looking at couponing as my part-time job. I said, you know what? I can either go out to work 20 hours a week and pay for childcare, or I can stay home and put in less money or less time and make the same amount of money, but instead of making it, I'm saving it on the back end.
And when you really look at, what you're spending on your gas to going to work, what you're spending on your gas, for a part-time job, I don't mean a big career.
Right.
What you're spending on your gas, childcare, the whole thing, clothing, uniforms, whatever it is that you need.
Right.
Couponing could really offset that.
Yes. It was huge for me.
Yeah.
It was huge for me. So I put in a good 10 hours a week finding the best deals. I fed us on $50 a week for 3 years, and in that process, I was pregnant, and I had another child.
I wasn't pregnant, though.
It's a miracle. I had a Tupperware bin, like one of those like shoebox size Tupperware bins. This is what I made, and it had a filing system that I had cut all these pieces of paper, and it had a top, and I would literally it was like my second child.
Like a baby. Yeah.
It was my baby, and I would put it in the front of my grocery cart, and that's how I would shop, but it freed up so much more money so that I could aggressively start paying down the debt.
It's crazy what it can do. It really, really is.
Yep.
So it's good to see, hear your, how that helped you.
Yep.
Another thing I want to talk about is communication.
Yes.
That I think is a big communication with your significant other, your spouse, your husband, your wife. I learned from my experience that I wasn't communicating. And I believe that's what you were going through too. Why do you think it's so important, such an important component to budgeting?
Well, I think,
and planning?
Yeah, I think it's huge because people look at life differently. And if you're married to the opposite money personality, then you look at money completely different, and mostly life completely different. If you're not communicating about it, then you're looking at 2 different roads and seeing a different outcome.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we have people do, because we'll work with couples now, like in our church and stuff like that, is we have them fill out this list called the financial bucket list. And it's set up as, we take them and say, these are the categories that, are important in life, like faith and work and kids and family and future, retirement, all that kind of stuff, and fill out what is important to them. And then they come together and talk about it. And what they find is that their goals are most of the time the same, but their avenues to get there are different.
Yeah.
And so if we can keep them on the same road by communicating, there's a lot less potholes for them to jump into.
Right. And they
and it
probably
helps.
can find out that they work so much better together than
Right.
apart.
For years, Mark and I went our opposite ways, and then like for me, he's a saver, I'm a spender. He loves money. Talking about money, I'm not, so I wasn't so good with it for years. And we find now when we budget together, he handles all of the like technical stuff, and I know the big picture stuff. Like, what do the kids need for school?
Right.
What do they need for food? I do the grocery shopping, birthday parties, gifts.
Things that he probably wouldn't pay attention to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, we need to send your mom flowers on her birthday, like that kind of stuff. And so working together, we're like a power team.
That's great.
So, but it wasn't always like that.
Right. That's why communication is so important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So important.
I think you have to get past that first initial,
Yeah.
butting heads, and then once you find that even area where you can communicate better, I think that's an important thing. I know.
And that's actually the financial bucket list is actually in the back of the book. So if you buy the book, you get a copy of it.
There you go.
There it is, right there.
Yeah.
So you can fill it out. And what I find that when you do this, like if your husband was going to fill it out and you're going to fill it out, do it separate. And then when you come together, you realize that your goals are the same, so that you're already starting out on the same page and not fighting.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, we want the same thing.
How do we get there?
How do we get there together?
Right.
And it just kind of breaks the ice without like, you need to stop spending money.
Yeah.
And then that never goes anywhere.
No, it isn't, because you get defensive right
Exactly, and that's usually what happens.
Yes.
So let's face it.
And somebody walks out. And,
exactly. So this is like a good way to like bridge the gap.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
There was a great section in there. A lot of it, you touched on communication many times throughout the book.
Right.
So that's how important it is. Well, next thing, credit cards.
Yes.
That is. Now that is what got me into big trouble.
Me too.
And it's you talk about triggers. It doesn't matter if I'm in a store or not, that credit card is my trigger. I have it, and, So I am a big proponent, and I've talked about this to my readers and viewers all the time, and I know there's so many people that think, I can handle it, and that's great if they can. And I'm all for it. You earn your points, and great. But I am a big proponent for not owning a credit card. And I know you went through an experiment in your book where you had a credit card, then when you were a spender, and then now you came out without a credit card. You stopped using a credit card, and then you tried it out again. Yep. So tell us about that and how that went.
Well, let me tell you, this was a painful process for me. So I thought to myself, okay, if I can prove, while I'm writing this book, if I can prove that I will always be a spender, then I feel like, but yet I'm really good with money now, then that says something, that spenders can be wise with their finances. Because a lot of times people think they can't.
Right.
So I thought to myself, okay, how am I going to do this? Okay, I hadn't used credit cards in 7-8 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, I signed up for a credit card. Not just one, but 3 credit cards, because I have a lot of friends that are they call themselves travel hackers. Travel hackers, like, let's charge this points, and then you can use these points on this airlines. I said, okay, let's do this, and we'll get some free airline tickets. We were going out to the FinCon conference last year. And as I'm using them, like, I'm like anxious. I'm feeling out of control. I'm waking up in the middle of the night. I'm having nightmares, like literal nightmares of waking up in the same house that almost put us under, and waking up in like a cold sweat. And so my experiment was that I was going to use credit card for 3 months and see what happens.
Did you get through it?
I made it the 3 months with major panic attacks, to be honest. And then from there, I found out that I spent an extra $2,000 more than I would have.
Over the 3 months?
Over the 3 months.
Isn't that interesting?
Just because it swipes.
Yep, you're not thinking.
Yep. And there was actually a study, and I talk about in the book too, that a part of your brain called the insula doesn't ignite for spenders.
Okay.
So the insula is responsible, like if I was going to like punch your hand, you would pull it away because you would feel like, oh, I'm going to get hurt. It's like a danger. With spenders, that danger thing doesn't ignite as fast, so us spenders don't see the danger of our spending. Well, that also happens when you use a credit card. Your insula doesn't ignite like it should, but it does if you use cash.
Interesting.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So there's something like going on in our minds.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, because, people are all different, types of personalities, it would make sense that however your brain works is what causes spending or not spending or things like that. But yeah. Now, you are call yourself, well, first of all, you're such a success story.
Oh, thank you.
You've been gone through so much adversity and pulled through it, and I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
Do you think that you're cured?
No.
As you would say? Like, are you no longer a recovering, or a spender?
No, that's why I titled the book The Recovering Spender instead of The Recovered Spender. And there was a reason for that, is that I feel like I always will have the urge to spend money.
Right.
But I know my fence. I know what my values are in life. I spend my money as a reflection of those values, and as long as I stay within my fence, then I'll be good. But anytime I go outside, I was telling you, like last night I went to Bloomingdale's, and I was like, lasted like 10 minutes. I'm like, I gotta get out of this place. This is like bad news.
Bad news. Bad vibes.
Bad vibes. And so, but yet I can still be good with money. And I hope that, you all listening can be encouraged by that. Like, that you don't have, just because you like to spend money doesn't mean you have to spend money.
Right.
There's some, you can have self-control, you can have a life full of joy,
and
stay within the fence.
Yes.
Stay within the fence. Yes.
Well, we are going to take some questions.
Okay.
We have questions? Yeah, good. Okay, we have questions. Let me see.
Yay.
We have a
Lots
bunch
of
of them.
questions. Good.
Yes. Okay, Beth wants to know, what is the best way to budget to save money for needs than wants?
So one of the things that we do is if you have a need that's coming up, let's say in 6 months you have to go on vacation because it's a family reunion or something like that, I would figure out how much money that's going to take, and then I would split it up how many months you need to save for it, and then set up an online checking account. This is what I do, is we have some online checking accounts that we can't use for overdraft or anything like that, and then we hide the money. So we hide it online in this online checking account. There's so many, so many out there, or a bank across town that you never go to, and then kind of break it down that way, and it makes it a little bit more attainable, instead of like, okay, this month we have to afford this, $500 bill for snow tires or something like that. You're just thinking ahead.
That's good. Okay. Crystal says, I love Lauren Greutman. Aww. She helped me meal plan for my family of 7.
Oh, yay! Hi, Crystal.
And she said something else. Who helped you learn to budget and control your spending? Did you ever take a Financial Peace University class?
You know what? Financial Peace University, I read Dave Ramsey's book, and I think the first 4 steps of his book are great. Are great steps. There were some things I disagreed with, and it mostly, I think, was because it was a finance book, and I don't enjoy reading finance books. And so that's why mine is more of like a lifestyle finance book. But yeah, no, I think there's lots of great other finance books out there as well.
I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Subhana, I hope I didn't chop that up. Sorry. How do you save money when you just make ends meet, which is something we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so yeah, how do you save money if you just make ends meet? There are so many opportunities, and I don't know how often you write about them on your site, but there's so many ways that you can make extra money from home. For one big thing, I did surveys for a while and saved up all my money for Christmas one year doing surveys. That I think, like, we don't have to be in this stuck mentality of, this is how much I make, I can't afford to save money. There is so much out there as far as virtual assistant work.
These days with
the internet, being able to make extra cash on the side, like I talked about. My sister-in-law, like, full-time, does eBay flipping from thrift stores and makes a lot of money every single month. Like, we're talking in the thousands.
Really?
Wow. And so I think I want people to be encouraged.
They just all ran to the thrift store.
Come back! We're not done yet.
They're all at the thrift store now.
But I think, like, there's this mentality of, I'm stuck in my current financial situation, and there's always hope to make more money. And so I guess I just want to encourage them with that.
Yeah. I mean, you give in your book. It's really encouraging. There's so many great tips on ways to make ends meet, make extra money, find that emergency fund that you need to have. Lipna.
Lipna.
Sorry. I find it easier to use the debit card on unnecessary things, but taking out cash and not use the debit card makes you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have so much money on you, you can't spend as much or spend on unnecessary things.
Right,
Yeah, it's
and
very
that's
true.
it's very true, and that's why cash is so important.
Yeah.
Because I think you actually see like the pain when
Right.
cash leaves your hand.
You're like, oh,
I don't have any more, and then you can't spend anymore.
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
It is true.
It's like painful when you
Yes.
spend your last few dollars.
You know what I love and my husband loves it too, when we have our envelopes with
Mhm.
our grocery money and our, the dog's grooming
Yep.
and clothing and stuff like that. I love to see how fat it gets.
Yes. When you
Is
like,
that
I didn't
crazy?
use that.
I would have never done that before. Before it would have been like, how much do I have?
I
And I
know.
put it in my pocket and go.
Mm-hmm.
But now I love to see how fat
Yes.
it gets.
And the best thing is when you're like, oh, I didn't use this $50 from last month. Now I don't have to take, now I only have to put this much in and not, make it even bigger.
Yes, right.
The
So-
crazy things that we like now,
Yes,
right?
that's true. Kimberly says, I'm on my own. I have so much debt I've built up already. My credit is ruined and still failing. I work so much, still get discouraged from not keeping up. So I will buy something that I know I can't afford to keep me from getting too stressed out. I don't spend a lot. I don't buy brand new. And I always look for good deals. How can I treat myself but still get things paid and stop being so behind?
Yes, that is a phenomenal question that I think reaches to the core of what my book is about.
Yeah.
That we have
And
a life to
if
live.
you are just tuning in,
Mm-hmm.
it's The Recovering Spender.
Yep, you can buy it anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever. And I think that hits to the core of what my book is about, is that we still have a life to live.
Yes.
We still have things that we want to buy. And so I always say when you're doing a budget, give yourself, whether it's $1 or $5, just a little money to do whatever you want with
Right.
every single week, so that you don't feel deprived. And what you're going to do is you're going to spend that money and you're not going to feel guilty about it,
Right.
hopefully. And then I don't know, I just feel like it changes your whole psyche of what you're doing with the budget.
Mhm.
Instead of being so strict all the time, that you now have this like $1, $2, get yourself a cup of coffee, go
Right.
and do something fun with your kids.
And stay within
And
that.
stay within the
fence.
fence. Yes, yes. But there's always hope. I mean, we almost lost our house and everything that we had.
Mhm.
And so the fact that I can do it, I don't know. I feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it,
can
really.
Yeah, I mean, just the book is really great. You got to read it. It's got a lot of information. You'll just love the information and how transparent Lauren is, and it feels like when you're reading it, you'll feel like she's talking about you. So it's a great book, so I definitely recommend it. Before we wrap it up and talk about where to get the book more in detail, we are going to have a giveaway.
Woo, giveaway!
Yes, so we have, what we're giving away are 2 of Lauren's two, not one, but 2 financial planner, and they're up right now for you to see. So you'll be able to choose their color.
They can choose their color.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're seeing some pictures of it right now, what it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to give away 2 of these. What's the value of them?
$50 each.
$50 each.
Mhm.
So we are giving away 2. And how do you enter? You have to. We've done this before. So if you've been on our live videos, tag a friend in the comments below, and it has to be a Facebook friend, and just start typing at the @ symbol and their name, and you'll see a list populate. Select their name. It'll be blue in the comments. So that will, just doing that will have you entered to win the planner.
Mhm.
So it's great looking planner.
Yes.
I haven't seen it up close and
Thank
personal,
you.
but it looks like a great planner. It's a financial.
We call it the personal finance planner. So if people want to look at it, they can go to the personalfinanceplanner.com and it'll give them all the specs of it. But it's pretty much a complete day planner plus personal finance system in the same book. So it walks you through all the prompts and everything like that, and how to budget and stay within your fence.
2 people are within that fence. 2 people are going to win it. 2 of our viewers. So make sure you tag a friend. It ends tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So it'll end. No more entries after 10 p.m. And tomorrow morning we will pick 2 winners, and then we'll be sending those, or Lauren will
Yep,
be sending
we'll send them
those
out to you.
planners out to you. So that is pretty awesome.
Yay.
I love that. So, thank you so much. I know you're
You're
so busy
welcome.
with your media tour on this book right now, and the book is doing absolutely awesome.
Yes.
She's about
Thank you.
69
Yeah,
on the top.
69 on the top 100 of Amazon, out of 6 million books.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I know.
Good for you.
Thank
I'm so
you.
happy. So, tell where they can get it on Amazon.
Yep.
Where
They can
else?
get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and then they can go to therecoveringsspender.com or laurengroutman.com.
And it's in most
in-
Barnes and Nobles.
It's in every single Barnes & Noble store in the country.
There you go.
Yeah. If it's not
So-
sold out of your store yet.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Probably might be. Probably
It might be. Who knows?
So make sure this is a great book. And again, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you. This has been a blast. And thank you all for coming
yeah,
and listening.
Thank you
This
for
has
listening.
been awesome.
And we will catch you guys later. And I'll be back on today's Thursday. I'll be back on Monday for this week's hottest deals. So make sure you guys keep on couponing and start your budgets, right?
Yes, definitely.
We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.